All right. Hi there, everyone. My name is Prince Akaguano. I'm working with Sweater and Victor. Our project is the traffic stop for law enforcement. This is kind of like a generic image of, no one sells CD covers. No one sells CDs or DVDs nowadays, but say you were to buy the DVD, this would be on the DVD. I know nowadays it's Steam and downloads and all whatnot. Um, but at least you get a sense of what's going on, what's happening in the project. The project is a simulation of a law enforcement traffic stop from the driver and occupant's point of view. It encourages the user to experience the event firsthand and to make decisions that may escalate or de-escalate the situation depending on what the user does, the user's choice. And why do this in VR? Because traffic stops are a routine operation of law enforcement. It's the most common interaction between the police officer and a civilian. Traffic stops are highly risky due to the uniqueness of each situation. I mean, if nowadays, if you're well informed, you probably know about a few police stops that went out of hand and somebody maybe died. So a stop initiated for a simple reason may quickly escalate to a life and death situation. So this virtual reality simulation is developed to assist drivers and law enforcement with current traffic procedures. It leverages the futuristic capabilities of immersive virtual reality experiences, including education and training, and legal adjudication. It could be used for recreating crime scenes, and heck, for entertainment. After a hard day's job, a police officer might want to decompress, or a driver might want to experience what they could have maybe gotten away with, all right, without hurting someone in real life. All right, so modeling an environment. The envisioned environment would be a realistic representation of street or highway roads, including other drivers, pedestrians, traffic signs, and buildings. This environment would also include a graphic user interface with a health bar and a bunch of other graphic stuff, speedometers, and on-screen instructions for the user. This is what the environment looks like. It's pretty dense. We went with low poly environment in place of high poly due to the size of what we envisioned. But then it wasn't that low. It was basically stylized, not very low poly. But because of that, that gave us an opportunity to go a little high res when it came to the player and the police and the other participants that are in closer view to the camera. And this is what the graphic GUI looks like. I talked a little bit more about it in the video demo, but you can see it has instructions and two buttons below the instructions. It has a health bar and a speedometer, and you can see a view of the city with the avatars and other drivers, and the player car is the yellow one in front. Functionality. This project required six functionalities: vision, sound, animation, interactivity, sensors, and avatars. So we used textures that came with the 3D models to provide detailed information. We imported characters from Mixamo, and in addition to that, we also imported the materials and textures that came with those characters. We use sound for speech and ambient sound to help provide information. We used animation. Well, definitely we use more than three animated objects. Interactivity, we use at least three user triggered events, and we use at least three sensors for proximity and colliders. And avatars, we use custom and one or two inbuilt avatars. Functionality, interactivity. It was built on Unity 3D. The user will be driving a car in a first person point of view. User will navigate with mouse and WASD buttons on the keyboard. There will be information and instructions displayed on the screen. User would encounter and avoid other road hazards and other drivers and traffic signs, or they will lose health. But ultimately, they would encounter law enforcement and may be ordered to stop. and based on the subsequent instructions on the screen and choices that the user makes to those from the law enforcement would determine how the gameplay continues from that point. So the user's choice would determine if it's a good or bad outcome. A good outcome would allow the user to continue. A bad outcome would be basically game over. Functionality sound, we use background sound, we use car sound, we use law enforcement sounds was not implemented. That's what NI means, not implemented. Use of player and law enforcement voice to provide an interaction was not implemented. Use of gunshot sound was also not implemented. We just basically ran out of time. But we use car sound. There's engine noise. It revs up and down based on how far the car goes. There's also the police siren sound. There's a crash sound, tire screeches. The background sound would definitely is basically a traffic sound, a city traffic. I think it's somewhere either London or somewhere in Australia, which was attached to the main camera, and it begins to play immediately. Functionality animation. We have over 500 autonomous avatars. I said over 500 because I just for the kicks, I threw in your neighborhood robot Kyle that comes with Unity. I threw him in there, but there's 500 avatars walking around in the scene. We animated the cars, obviously the player car, the police chase car. The car lights was also animated, the front and the bumper lights, the stop lights, as well as the police siren lights, and the speedometer on the graphic user interface was also animated. And the camera views, when you change your camera view, it animates, eases in and out. There's a shot of 500 avatars in the scene. Proximity sensors will help us monitor distance between other drivers and pedestrians. These proximity sensors are spread across on the cars and on the avatars themselves. We also have proximity sensors to trigger police chase. There is also another sensor that we call it a kill zone. Basically, once the player jumps out of the car and they run out, as soon as they run into this, I think it's a collider. It's a sphere collider. That's when the law enforcement opens fire. And here's an avatar sensor, is what it looks like. We have a box collider. I think it's two embedded on each other. One is for collision, so the driver doesn't go through, and one is basically the sensor that transfers data to the help bar. And here's a police chase sensor. So basically, once the driver comes across or drives across this sensor, it's littered. It's just spread across the city. So once you drive across it, it'll trigger a police chase. Out of nowhere, a police will appear behind you, and then the other events, actions unfold in the game. And this is the kill zone, the police shoot sensor. So it's a sphere. So once the police orders you to get out, you get out, and the GUI says run or stay. You choose run. You may not run beyond that sphere. Once because the camera will switch to FPS view at that point. Once you run into the sphere, the officer would open fire. We used most of our 3D models and avatars came from Unity Asset Store, but some props in the scene came from TurboSquid, 3D Warehouse, and CG Trader. This was very, very advantageous, obviously, because of time. We didn't have time to model geometry and textures from scratch. Sound, most of the sound came from Zapsplat. Zapsplat, try again. Zapsplat. BBC, free sound effects, and free sound. And most of all, animation came from Mixamo, which is a royalty-free online animation engine. I think it's bought out. It's owned by Adobe now. And here we are. It's three of us, Victor, Sweater, and myself. Most of the heavy load was distributed amongst ourselves, the scripting, the programming, the 3D models. We went out and started looking for stuff. Sound, Victor did most of the sound. Sweater also took care of most of the lights, and I took care of most of the animation. To-do list. It's not over till it's over. So we still have to implement the police car chase. We still have to implement the player running away from the police. and the police in the food chase in that sphere, the kill zone that I showed earlier. We'll also have to implement the police opening fire and police interviewing the player, asking for stuff like your information, your insurance and registration, that kind of stuff. Also, we thought about a game welcome screen and a game over screen, and the traffic light system, which should be an integral part of the game and simulation when it's all done. And that'll be all, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. We'll take questions at this point.